Welcome to 3rd and 21, a show where we talk about college football and try to have a little fun. Where we talk about college football and try to have a little fun. Now back to you, Kemper.
All right, thank you, Jenny. So let's break down the Big 12. And when we start at the bottom, we have to start at Kansas. I want to be super clear about it because I have bagged on Kansas as being the worst Power 5 program. I'm saying the worst Power 5 program. It's not the players. Every player on Kansas was a terrific high school player and got a scholarship to a Power 5 conference program. So it's not the players, but it is the program. 3 wins in the last 3 years. 1 Big 12 win in the last 3 years. That was against Texas, and Texas fired Charlie Strong shortly after. So the good news for Kansas is they're terrific at basketball, and that's not too far in the future. But Baylor is another story. Now, we all expected Baylor to take a fairly big step back last couple of years after the Art Broyles controversy. But nobody saw a 1-11 campaign with an embarrassing home loss to Liberty. But the good news is they returned 17 starters. They did a controlled burn. Got a lot of players out. Now they're returning 17 starters. So things are pointing up. Not enough to get to a bowl most likely this year, but they will get tested the second week when Duke comes to Waco. So we'll keep an eye on that to see how far along Baylor's come. Next up is Texas Tech. And Cliff Kingsbury is coming into his 5th year. It seems like a lot longer, but 2 things. Cliff Kingsbury is a terrific looking man. And he throws the ball all over the place. It's offense, offense, offense. But this year, in somewhat of a role reversal, defense is going to lead the way. They've got 10 returning starters. It's going to be the best defense Texas Tech has had in decades. So keep an eye on what Texas Tech is one of these teams. They play a lot better at home. If you go to Lubbock, you're going to get a hard game. On the road, they're not nearly as tough. Next up, now every poll that you see is going to have Oklahoma State ranked higher than this. I have Oklahoma State here because last year was their year. If there was ever going to happen, Oklahoma State should have won it last year. They had an NFL quarterback. They had 2 NFL wide receivers. Everything set up for them. Home games, but it did not happen. So I think when you take your foot off the gas, it's really hard to get that momentum back, and it feels like they've lost momentum for Oklahoma State, even though I do see them get to a bowl for sure. Next up, quick, name a team that beat a playoff team on their field. If you said Iowa State, you are absolutely right. Now, they faded a little bit down the stretch. Still, they went 8-5 last year. They won. It took them 3 years to win 8 games before Matt Campbell took over as head coach. So he is doing a terrific job there, but they're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. Last year, they kind of snuck up on teams. That's not going to happen this year. But David Montgomery is a terrific story. If you've got a minute, Google David Montgomery and check out his story. It's worth it. Terrific young man and a terrific running back. So Iowa State, definitely see them get to a bowl. Matt Campbell is hot. And tell you what, with that, since there's only 10 teams in the Big 12, we're going to take a quick
Or another. Most of us will need an MRI or CT scan. Jane went to a hospital. Kate is getting the exact same scan at American Health Imaging. Jane scheduled hers months ago. Kate, just yesterday. Jane's been here for hours. Kate's already finished. Jane's MRI will cost about $2,500. Kate will pay about $600. Poor Jane. Your health. Your money, your choice. Make your...
All right, absolutely. It is your health. It's your money. It's your choice, AmericanHealthImaging.com. So let's break it down, starting with Kansas State. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that Bill Snyder is just smarter than everybody else. He can take players that aren't heavily recruited by your Oklahomas and Texases and turn them into a cohesive unit. Now they went 8-5 last year, 7-6, 9-4. They're always right in that area because the talent just isn't there. But They don't make mistakes, and they are never easy to beat on the road or at home. Cool game they've got coming up in the Little Apple of Manhattan, Kansas, is Mississippi State is coming to Kansas State, second week of the year, and that is going to be a terrific measuring stick for Kansas State because Mississippi State is loaded. Next up is Texas. Now, Tom Herman is bringing in his players. He's building this program back up. Had a good recruiting class last year, has, I think, the third-rated class as it stands right now. So he's starting to get his players in there and building the program back up. They do got to get better quarterback play. That's something that's held them back, but he's getting there. They've got 7 offensive, 7 defensive starters returning. A couple of cool games that Texas has scheduled. They get Maryland coming to Austin. Remember, they went to Maryland and lost last year. So Maryland's coming to Texas to open the season up, and the University of Southern California is going to come to Austin to play a game. So 2 really good out-of-conference games for Texas. I appreciate that. Next up is West Virginia. Now listen, West Virginia legitimately can win the Big 12 conference. They've got a terrific Heisman Trophy candidate caliber quarterback, Will Greer, who is outstanding at quarterback. Watching, he's going to be throwing to NFL-type wide receivers behind an offensive line that is outstanding. Offensively, West Virginia is going to be tops in the nation. Defense has some questions. Had 2 guys who they were really counting on leave the program unexpectedly over the winter. Defense, if they can just hold serve, West Virginia can make some real noise in the Big 12 and on a national landscape. So keep your eye on West Virginia. A couple cool games like Texas. They've got 2 really good out-of-conference games. They start against Tennessee and Charlotte, and they also play North Carolina State. So West Virginia is challenging themselves and playing a really good out-of-conference schedule. Next up is TCU. And when all the things were going down last year with the coaching carousel, TCU tied up Coach Gary Patterson, which was very smart. He has done a terrific job at TCU. Their defense is going to be nationally calibered, highly ranked, 10 returning starters. They're going to be great on defense. They got to find a new quarterback. They got to find a receiver. Offensive line is young, but Patterson has showed that he can work with a young line and make them good. TCU is a legitimate Big 12 and playoff contender if they can get through their schedule. They play Ohio State in Arlington, and then the next week they play Texas. So TCU, legitimate playoff contender. But if you're looking for who has the best players, it's Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley has done a terrific job coming through and making a seamless transition from Bob Stoops. They've got to replace Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is the one who made the engine go last year, so they've got to find somebody who can spark it like that. But Murray is a quarterback who should be terrific. They've got athletes. That is not a question. They've got the best players in the Big 12. Oklahoma, a legitimate playoff contender. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go to the ever-popular mailbag, and let's see what that brings. Absolutely right. Maxi Homes, long on quality, short on drama. Maxi Homes, that's www.maxihomesga.com. They're going to do you solid. So we're going to go to a segment we call the ever-popular mailbag. That's when you can write in, ask me any question about college football. I'll do my level best to give you a clear and concise answer. First question.
Art from MC3 Church in Lilburn, Georgia asks, Texas has been a college football juggernaut for years. Will they ever get their old swagger back?
Art, I believe they will. Tom Herman's coming into his second year. He's getting his players in place. They're returning 7 offense, 7 defensive players. If you've only seen college football in the last 10 years, you would think Texas is just an average, medium, middle-of-the-road program, but they're not. They are a foundational player in college football, and I believe that Tom Herman is going to get them back, thus bringing back their swagger. So, yes, I do believe so. Next question.
Josh Walters from Rand, West Virginia asks, I'm stoked about West Virginia's season, but what about their November?
Right. Well, Josh, you should be stoked about West Virginia. They are an outside college football playoff contender. They have a terrific quarterback, great receivers, great line. Things are really setting up well in Morgantown. But you're right. Their November is at Texas, TCU at home, at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma at home to end the season, which could be for the Big 12 championship. But for games to matter in November, you have to win in September and October. And West Virginia has a difficult schedule. But I would be stoked as well if I was a West Virginia fan. Next question.
Kirby from Dayton, Ohio asks, we all know about the situation with Urban Meyer. What do you think is going to happen to him?
I don't know what's going to happen to him. Here's what I do say. The truth always comes out. The truth always comes out. You can't hide from it. So, I believe in due process, so we'll see what happens. But if I was an Ohio State fan, you know who I'd be looking for? Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell. I think he would be a terrific fit at Ohio State. But let's let it play out where it is. But remember this, the truth always comes out. So with that, we're going to put a wrap on the mailbag and remind you, 1, please like and subscribe. 2, we're going to come back next week, break down the ACC, and that is a terrific up-and-coming conference. Look forward to talking to you next week.